Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. I'm stepping into the vault today as your global macro strategist, and man, we've got a highly urgent, absolutely fascinating breakdown ahead of us. We're looking at something that touches literally every single one of us, from a 10-year-old grabbing a snack to a 100-year-old paying an electricity bill, and especially the local business owners just trying to keep their communities running. You see a border dispute thousands of miles away, or a shipping lane closed in some distant sea on the evening news, and you probably think, well, that's terrible, but it doesn't really affect me or my business, right? Well, today we're going to completely decode the hidden financial web of global conflict. We're going to show you exactly why that distant event is actually sitting right inside your wallet. Okay, let's dive right into this with a question that might seem, frankly, almost impossible at first glance. How on earth does a closed sea, practically on the other side of the planet, raise your local grocery bill or the cost of raw materials for your neighborhood shop in just 30 days? I mean, we tend to think of the world in these isolated little bubbles, right? Politics over there, our local economy right here. But the reality, the modern global economy is incredibly, incredibly sensitive. So we're going to map out the invisible link between global maps and local wallets and prove just how rapidly global friction turns into local inflation. So, I want you to picture a world map. Imagine a small spark ignites in one region, say, a sudden geopolitical border dispute. Almost instantly, that spark sends this glowing, warning red pulse traveling rapidly right across the oceans. And the crazy thing is, it doesn't stop at the shoreline. It travels down your street, straight through your front door, and lands directly inside your kitchen piggy bank, or, if you're on a business, right onto your daily ledger. That red pulse, that represents the immediate, visceral hit to your everyday fuel, electricity budgets, and raw material costs. It's a chain reaction, guys, and understanding how it travels is the absolute first step to protecting yourself from it. Part 1. The broken invisible highway. Supply chains disrupted. To really understand how that red pulse travels so lightning fast, we need to zoom out and look at the macro picture. Think of the global supply chain as an invisible highway. We don't see it when we look up at the sky or drive down the street, but it's this delicate, highly optimized network of ships, trains, and trucks moving 24/7. Now, for a local shop owner, this invisible highway is literally the lifeline. It's what brings in your packaging, your ingredients, your inventory, but because it's been so highly optimized to be fast and cheap, it's also incredibly fragile. It instantly translates any global tension into a massive roadblock. And a roadblock, well, that means local shortages. And if we walk through the steps, it brilliantly illustrates exactly how a disruption plays out on that highway. Picture a giant cargo ship navigating through a major ocean trade route. Step 1. The cargo ship leaves a factory, loaded up with raw materials headed straight for your town. Step 2. It nears a narrow strait, a critical choke point on the map. But suddenly, bam, because of geopolitical friction, a barrier drops down. The route is entirely closed. So step 3, that massive ship is now forced into a huge, winding global detour all the way around an entire continent. Imagine a digital counter just hovering right over that ship, with the cost rapidly ticking upward with every single extra mile it has to sail. And here is the magic, and honestly, sometimes terrifying number: 30. 30 days. That is often all it takes for the rapidly ticking cost of that ship's detour to actually reach you. Because when routes close, it's not just extra fuel. War risk insurance premiums for these giant cargo ships, they can spike by hundreds of % overnight. Factories run out of parts because the ships are late, creating this huge backlog. And within just 30 days, those massive institutional costs trickle all the way down the highway and land right on the price tag at your local checkout counter. No joke. Moving on to part 2, the local grocery reality, the connected loaf of bread. So, we've looked at the macro globe. Now let's zoom all the way in to your community market. Consider a single everyday item, like a simple loaf of bread. That loaf doesn't just come from the bakery down the street. It is a 20-country loaf of bread. Imagine glowing lines splitting off from that bread in your mind, pointing to different parts of the world. The wheat might come from Europe. The energy used to bake it? That comes from oil or gas from the Middle East. The plastic packaging comes from a facility all the way in Asia. It relies on pieces from all over the world. So if geopolitics breaks just one of those connections, the entire system flashes red. The whole world, including the baker right on your corner, pays the price for that broken link. Now, what's really interesting here is the stark reality this presents for small business owners.
Think about the contrast. Before the highway broke, a shop owner or a baker had stable, predictable pricing for their raw materials. They could plan their year out, hire staff, and set fair prices for the community. But after the highway breaks, they're hit with rapidly fluctuating, highly inflated pricing. They literally don't know from week to week what flour, sugar, or packaging will cost them. This kind of volatility makes it incredibly difficult for community markets to survive, let alone actually thrive. Which brings us to a really profound realization. Think about this quote for a second. Inflation isn't just an economic mistake. It's often a geopolitical shadow. We so often blame local politicians or central banks when prices go up, right? Thinking someone just printed too much money or made a bad economic policy. And sure, while that can definitely be part of it, the truth is that rising local costs are very often a direct symptom of distant geopolitical friction. It's literally the shadow cast by global conflicts falling right over your local economy.
Which leads us to part 3, the vault strategy. Local is king. As a macro strategist, I am not here just to point out the storm. I am here to give you an umbrella and a map to higher ground. The absolute secret to surviving this volatility is simple. Local is king. We are seeing a massive global shift towards self-reliance right now. And here are 2 actionable tips for business owners and individuals alike to build immediate supply chain resilience. First, invest heavily in local assets and tangible goods. The closer the source of your goods is to your front door, the less vulnerable you are to those crazy ocean detours. Second, develop community skills that bypass global conflicts entirely. Because if your community has the skills to produce, repair, and sustain itself, a closed shipping lane thousands of miles away suddenly matters a whole lot less. Let's make this even more practical for the shop owners listening right now. Here are 3 quick ways you can diversify your local supplier networks today to protect your ledger from the next global shockwave. Number 1, source regional raw materials. Find suppliers in your own state or province rather than relying on overseas shipments. Number 2, partner with neighboring community markets. If you share bulk local orders, you reduce costs and build a really strong local safety net. And number 3, build a backup domestic supply network. You should always have a plan B that does not rely on crossing an ocean. So, the crucial point is this. The world map is constantly changing. Borders shift, tensions rise and fall, and that invisible highway will inevitably experience traffic jams. But your financial peace of mind and the stability of your local business, that shouldn't have to fluctuate with the global news cycle. By fully embracing the local is king philosophy, you build a fortress around your everyday cost of living. We've covered a lot of ground today, from distant seas all the way to your kitchen table. But I want to leave you with a question to bring this right to your own doorstep. Look around your community this week. What is one change you've noticed in your local prices recently? Is it the cost of your morning coffee? Maybe a missing item at the local hardware store? That right there, that is the geopolitical shadow at work. Observe it, recognize it, and use the strategies we discussed to protect your future every single day. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep your eyes open out there.